students are protected. And I have a tendency to listen to children. And I listened to a young man earlier this evening who talked about his trepidation and the issues that he had in taking the practice tests and the things that he was going through. So I am absolutely, I've been talking about, this is something we should have talked about a long time ago, number one. We should have been talking about this when it first came out. But I am in support of parents having the opportunity to opt out of an exam that many have taken and understand what the exam is about. This is not the CTBS test. This is not the NJS. This is a test where children are going to be sitting for long periods of time who may not feel good after taking the test. So my whole thing is I'm a parent supporter. If parents want to opt out, then we should have a policy in place to protect them, as other districts have done from Princeton to Milburn. And I'm not saying, follow the leader here, but we should have something in place for our parents to protect them if the state happens to come in and decide that this is what we want to do. And we know that the state has been sort of flip-flopping with what's been going on with the park and the opting out, because we had a meeting last year and they said you couldn't opt out at all. That's what the state said. Now the state is not saying that. And so here we sit once again. I think it's up to an individual parent. I wouldn't want anybody to take my rights away from me as a parent. And I would encourage people to take the PARCC. Take the test yourself and see what it's about. I would encourage the entire board to sit for the PARCC. And let's do the third. There used to be a show on television that was called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Well, I'm not as smart as a third grader. The tests are very, very difficult. You answer one question and then you have to defend it. And if it's wrong, now you have two questions wrong. I'm concerned about student self-esteem too. And how are we going to take care of our children with special needs? Is everything in place, for them? Lots of questions. This is, we're at a threshold here, so I would err on the side of parents.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Ms. Dillard.
Thank you. I have a question for administration, actually, because like Ms. Mohammed, I'm concerned about the idea of a policy. And just to be clear, Milburn does not have a policy. They're leaving it up to administration to have procedures, but they do not have a policy addressing opt-out. There's a big difference, right, to kind of how Ms. Mohammed framed it. So we've had standardized testing basically forever. I'm assuming there have always been parents that sent their kids to school saying, don't take the test. What have we done?
We've accommodated them. This is nothing new for us.
Right, but how?
Right, what might be new for us is the numbers. There hasn't been huge numbers as a principal.
But what did what were the principals told to do?
The principals were told if a student came to school, we were to give them the test. If they stayed home, they had to stay home for the entire period of the test, which was a week, let's say, in fourth grade, 5 days, plus the makeup session. So there was one student last year who did, unfortunately, stay out for 10 days so that he did not have to sit for the test. It's very hard to put a little kid in the position of putting, seating them and saying, and their parents saying, don't do anything. We don't want to put students in that position. So the test taking time actually is shorter than it was prior, but we do feel that if the child opts out, they opt out. We're not going to expect them, to sit the next day. I mean, we realize that, and there won't be any consequence. Right. So in terms of absence, it's really, this year is unique in that way, if that's, the desire of parents.
Because absent in this case could be the entire month of March.
Right, so that's unrealistic.
In shorter increments.
Right, we can't ask parents to do that, so we understand that is not reasonable in every district. And, we're on very many e-lists and talking to other superintendents, assistant superintendents about this exact problem, but we cannot, ask a parent or a child. We wouldn't want a child to stay home for the whole month. That's unreasonable.
Right, so I totally agree with that. So I think it's more appropriate to have consistent procedures in place that all principals know about. That, whether it's, and I think a reasonable model is, I know Milburn had their superintendent forum yesterday, and it was covered in TAP, the alternative press for Milburn. They have a fact sheet for PARCC, just like we do. It's on their website. And at the bottom of it, it says something to the effect of, if you do not wish your child to take PARCC, contact your building principal. And all the building principals have instructions of what to
Might have to do.
And I believe it's for the kid to sit in the room and read a book. So you're not dealing with substitute costs and coverage. The idea of having to provide an alternative educational program, the state has very specifically said no, we're not obligated for that to do that. That the educational program for that period is the testing. The testing is important. It's a new year. It's a transition year. I think we can try to do, the adults in the system can try to do a lot to alleviate the stress. The way you message it to your kids to say that, this is a new test. There are probably going to be some very challenging parts. Just do your best. Don't worry about it because the state's going to learn from how everybody does. The district's going to learn from how everyone does. There's not going to be anything punitive for you, the student, based on your outcome. We've already said publicly there will be no academic placement decisions made on these PARCC outcomes. I know the teachers, this is a very stressful year, as Ms. Aaron alluded to earlier. Fortunately, the state has knocked down the percentage that student outcomes contribute to their summative evaluation to 10%. So it really shouldn't impact the summative evaluation, and we've asked administration to give us a report on both. What's the summative without the test results as well as the summative with test results, just so we can see. And I would imagine that there would be a sentiment on this board that if the results are so bad that it was affecting teacher summative raising, that we would probably be happy to partner with SOMEA to argue at the state level that there needs to be a change to that because that's ridiculous. But I really think the testing, it plays a valuable tool. We do too much testing probably in the district, and the commission's interim recommendations to review all the assessments we do, what's their purpose, what's the overall plan, is very valid and something we should do. But these tests are mandated by the state, and the district is mandated to implement them. And as a board, we're actually mandated to uphold the rules and regulations of the state. Like, that's part of our code of ethics, whether we like it or not, right, is that we have to uphold this. So I think the important thing is that it's not punitive for kids. The idea of making them stay home for an entire week, I would consider that punitive. So I don't know, I kind of liked what I read online about what Milburn does is it's their administration develops a policy. If a parent is interested, they contact the principal ahead of time. The principal confirms what needs to be done. It's consistent across the district.
We will have a process in place. I met with the elementary principals on Friday. We discussed a possible scenario. I got feedback from them. Our test coordinator, along with Mr. Roth, our test coordinators, principals, and other staff involved have been meeting weekly so that we're all on the same page. And I really anticipate once, our first day of testing is going to run very, very smoothly. We don't want to put any additional stress. We really don't have any additional personnel, nor do we really have much space in our buildings. So we will come up with a plan that will ensure that everyone is safe and, depending on numbers and so on, we will make decisions that will ensure that, there is as little to no stress as possible for those that take the test as well as those that don't. We are mandated by federal and state regulations, and there are, participation rates that we have to meet. But I don't think we're unique. And, as Ms. Baker said, I think the bigger question is the assessments as a whole. The state did come out with a very good document, in December, that really, I think, very clearly pointed out, how we should be looking at all that we do. But, again, the state assessment plays a very large role. it is March and then again in April. There's a lot of newness to this. And of course, we monitor what's going on statewide and, in other states and those districts that took the field test. And, most students did see, a tremendous dip in scores. So we're, very cognizant, as Ms. Wright said, of students' feelings and sort of how, their perception. Because while we say it, doesn't count, there still is that feeling that, I want to do well, as it should be.
I just worry about the mismessaging that as a board, if we adopt this policy, we are making a statement against PARCC, as opposed to making sure that there's procedures in place that make sure that if a parent exercises, decides that their student isn't going to take the PARCC, that there's a process in place that's not punitive. There's a big difference.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody's saying
Let's
anything
go
about
sequentially if we
we
can.
hate the park.
Okay, let's go sequentially. Ms. Wright, I want to hear from everybody if we have a final comment, but I'd like to thank you, Ms. Doherty, and then Ms. Jones.
I just want to reiterate, I understand that parents have concerns. I understand that it's a new testing, a new process, and procedure that we're in. And just to really reiterate what Ms. Doherty was saying is that I think that we as parents and educators really support the students in the process. And I think it's really important that we think about how we are supporting them and what kind of feedback that we're providing in order to help them through this process. It's not going to be easy for anyone, but I really think that we really need to think about what kind of support and procedures that are going to be put in place so that teachers and administrators in the building know exactly how to proceed if a child comes in and is opting out, and also to ensure that if a child is going to opt out, but I do have one question. If there are excessive absences for a child, what kind of applications are made for the district?
There's a certain number of students that have to participate for us to meet the state requirements.
I can look it up. I have it sometimes.
I think it's 95%. And it's a federal.
It's a participation rate, 95%, which we always have met without question. But rest assured that the plan will be in place, absolutely. Our students, teachers are our first concern, so we want to make sure there isn't any additional stress. Students are resilient, they are kids, and there is some newness to this, but I guess we also feel like we're not unique, we're not the only district doing this and facing it. Our teachers, students, our administrative staff have been working hard to ensure that our instruction and curriculum is aligned to the Common Core and that technology is ready so their students can perform well. Everyone has really worked hard to collaborate, and we feel that our students are prepared to the greatest extent that they possibly can be prepared.
Just
One
yeah.
comment about the attendance. If a parent elects to keep their child home, that will be counted as an absence. It's not that we're excusing the absence. If they come to school and don't take the test, we make sure there's no discipline in their reaction, that they're doing something safe and valuable.
And when you say not excused, just to clarify, sorry, verified. Because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what excused absence versus unexcused. It wouldn't be considered a cut. You would have verified it with the parent, but it would count towards
Count toward the number
any
of absences.
in any state or federal counting of are you in school or not. The answer is no.